I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on MishTalk.com. Welcome back to the show, Mish.
Hey, a pleasure to be back on, Jim.
Oil prices have gone down because OPEC apparently can't agree to freeze production, which is already at record highs. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. What good would a freeze do? Not much. Meanwhile, gas is here. I don't know what it is in Canada. Actually, Illinois is one of the higher places, actually, around Chicago. Just over $2 a gallon. $2.07, I think I saw today. So there's got to be some places in the country where it's under $2. And I don't know. There's something happened today. I didn't catch exactly what, but gasoline prices are supposedly spiking here overnight. But I don't know, Jim. It looks like we might be heading for a little bit more down.
Well, of course, in Canada, we have the conundrum. Oil is sold in American dollars, but when the price of oil goes down, the Canadian dollar goes down, so we don't get to enjoy the lower price. We actually end up paying more.
Yeah, I know how that works. And a similar construct is taking place here right now in China, where they've got a falling yuan because of the rising dollar. The manufacturers actually have to pay for oil in dollars. Well, they can pay for oil in anything what they want, but with the yuan weakening versus the U.S. dollar, they have to pay more. And they're talking about hiking prices in the face of falling demand. So I wrote a little post on my blog today. Is that hiking prices against weakening demand? How's that going to work? There's a whole bunch of things here, and this is not going to be good for U.S. exports. The rising dollar. So I'm wondering how much more pain we're going to go through. I'm reading a story here now. I've not gotten a chance to blog about it yet, but 3 of the Fed's primary dealers believe that hikes are on hold until 2017. That's been my call all along. Actually, if they don't hike in December, I don't think they're going to. But it's just 3, and there were also several primary dealers who actually thought that they were going to hike in September, and they didn't. So you have to take these little reports with a little bit of grain of salt, I guess. But HBSC, RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, and RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, is that it? All think that the Fed is not going to hike in December. We'll see. Right now, the economic reports, as I'm watching it, have been okay. They've not been barn busters, but they've been okay. If the Fed is really desperate to hike, they've got their reason to hike.
Getting back to energy here, sure, I understand why people might be against coal. I understand maybe diesel isn't the cleanest thing out there. But now there's all this propaganda bad-mouthing natural gas as well. I don't know, where did it change where all of a sudden natural gas is bad?
I don't know how anyone can possibly come up with that, Jim. But given all the mania over global warming, I'm not surprised by anything. But people think, okay, well, let's go to solar. Well, that only tends to work when the sun is shining. Otherwise, you need some means, some way to store it, and people, everyone expecting batteries. The problem with batteries, you got to recharge them. Okay, you're going to recharge them with what? With electricity. And how are you generating that electricity? Obviously, it's from coal, it's from nuclear, or it's from natural gas. Take your pick. So the idea that you're going to get this 100% clean energy, unless this fusion miracle comes by and everyone gets free energy for everything, it's not going to happen. Growing corn to produce ethanol is one of the most environmentally dumbest things you can do. It's not energy efficient at all. Yet we subsidize ethanol. Why? We've got a lot of corn states here in the United States that they've passed these subsidies through. I personally, I would get rid of all of these subsidies and see what happens.
Well, plus here in Vancouver, we have a mayor who wants to ban natural gas unless it's something that comes out of a landfill.
Where did that come from?
Well,
What's his rationale?
Well, he wants to be the greenest mayor in the world. He's built tens of millions of dollars worth of bicycle lanes in places that nobody wanted them. If you want to buy anything in downtown Vancouver,
how much does it cost to put in this bicycle lane that no one's going to use? How much energy is that going to consume? These people really need to get a grip. This whole global warming thing, personally, I believe it's a scam. But let's just assume for a second that it's not, that it's really happening. The odds of government doing anything sensible about it are essentially zero, in my opinion. So here we have their scientists are trying, paid by the way, trying to suggest or prove or claim is that they can track the last 100 years or 1,000 years based off of man-made activity when these cycles have been occurring for the last 300, 500 more million years. One of these cycles are millions of years long between glaciers and warming, and these people act as if they can say the cause of the last 100 years is specifically global warming. Meanwhile, they changed the data every which way. First, they couldn't prove that it was warming. My God, it was actually cooling for the last 15 years. So they did another study, and they said, oh, my God, well, if we change this parameter here, it shows that temperatures are rising. Okay. I don't buy it, but even if it is, my underlying premise, the idea that governments are going to do anything sensible about this is crazy. Meanwhile, some things are happening on our own accord, where governments don't have to do anything. We're going to have fewer cars on the road because of just driverless cars. We're going to see it. They're going to be more efficient. They're going to be, within 30 years, we're not going to recognize what roads and cars and efficiency look like. Things have changed. So technology is marching on its own accord. Governments don't need to do anything. This problem is going to fix itself. Now, the weird thing about all of this is I'm all in favor of less pollution. China is polluting like mad. So I'm actually in favor of getting rid of these pollutants. China's killing people. They've got emissions so bad. So if we want to do something, let's, kill some of this pollution and save some lives. But please, global warming, give me a break.
Well, of course, yes, China's average life expectancy has dropped 6 years because of the air pollution. But China's government also doesn't do anything about their rampant smoking rate. My idea being, same thing in Japan, is that they want you to die before you collect your pension.
I think so.
We'll have more with Mish Shedlock right after the break.
Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mike Shedlock. Mish, the Canadian government, Justin Trudeau, is going to introduce a carbon tax on January 1st, and it's going to increase over the next 5 years to where we'll be paying 12, 13 cents a liter. Multiply that by 4 per gallon for you. Now, we live in the coldest country in the world with the greatest distance between the biggest cities. Is this the right kind of tax to put on a country that needs to stay warm and to travel?
It makes no sense. It really makes no sense. And, first off, how much of the global economy is Canada? I don't have the stat off the top of my head. But if Canada reduced its emissions to zero, would it do much? I don't believe it would.
0.8% of the world's emissions. 0.8% of the world's emissions.
0.8%. Okay, so there you go. So if China cut its emissions to zero, it would help the carbon in the world by 0.8%. So it's crazy. So why should Canadians suffer, for this? So is this something that he can single-handedly do? I wasn't aware of this. Does Parliament, who has to agree to this? Can we do this by dictate in Canada?
Yes, you can. Once you're elected Prime Minister, you are effectively the dictator of Canada for the next 5 years. There's nothing you can do about it. You really can't.
Well, that's a pretty sad state of affairs, actually, but, at least I guess he was elected, right? I mean, So, meanwhile, in Europe, let's contrast this setup in Canada with the setup in the EU. It takes 28 nations to agree to do practically anything in the EU, and in Canada, this guy can do this on his own accord. That's a pretty interesting construct, contrast.
Yeah, well, that's the parliamentary system. Once you have a majority, you can do whatever you want.
Oh, well, see, he can't do it. He needs Parliament. He just can't dictate this. He's got a majority in Parliament, right?
Right, but you get fired from caucus if you don't go along with what the Prime Minister wants, so.
Well, all right. It's interesting hearing about all these because they all work different. The UK is different. Germany is different. Spain is different. Italy is different. In Italy, they're trying to remove the Senate so that the guy in power automatically has a majority. So this sounds like the Canadian system. And I'm wondering if this is going to backfire, Jim, because Matteo Renzi is the current prime minister wants to pass this rule change, and he wants to eliminate the power of the Senate and have Parliament essentially be controlled by whatever party gets the most votes, and the most in a place like Italy, because of all of its fractured policies, might actually be something like 28% of the vote. And he's threatening to resign if this thing doesn't pass. And I'm wondering if he should be hoping that it really doesn't pass, although he's gambling here that he is actually going to win the next election. Because if they pass this thing and the 5-star movement gets in there, they want to take Italy off of the euro. And so imagine this setup where the 5-star movement wins, has a majority of Parliament, and they say, let's get off the euro. Not quite so simple. I think they got to do a referendum or something. Well, who knows? When you got a majority in Parliament, you can pass whatever the hell you want. and they will leave the euro. So this is the game that's being played right now in Italy. Marine Le Pen appears to be making it. She's Eurosceptic in France, running on the National Front Party in France. Eurosceptic. She's going to make it to round two. Problem is, problem for her is it doesn't look like she has any chance of winning. But Italy's a completely different matter here. And in Austria, they having a second round of elections that was simply because the Supreme Court, Constitutional Court of Austria, said that the last result was tainted. A Eurosceptic was ahead on the final day in the final count. After they counted absentee ballots, he lost. Actually, I was extremely surprised by this, and they said, well, we're going to redo the election after it went the way the bureaucrats actually wanted. And now it appears that someone from that's Eurosceptic and extremely anti-immigration is actually going to be the president of Austria. It's a symbolic position, but just looking at all of these races, elections, we've had Brexit, we've got Donald Trump, who might actually win this, and he probably would have had he not blown the first debate with Hillary. People are angry. Is there anger in Canada, or is anyone angry over any of this?
Well, there was about the way Harper was running as pretty much a dictator again, an elected one, but bringing in policies people didn't want. And I think Trudeau got a lot of votes because he promised to legalize pot, something he hasn't done yet.
Well, we've got those measures here in the United States, in Colorado, and in certain states, and the federal government, which actually has final say over this, has actually just looked the other way because they know it's a hot potato, and something's going to happen. No matter who wins this election in the U.S., it's a tainted election, without a doubt. Hillary's madder than a hornet now that these new allegations, actually old allegations, have resurfaced again for the second time. She should have been indicted. When's the last time? Actually, never. I'll tell you the answer. At no point in history has someone running for president been under the subject of an FBI investigation. And that's the sad state of affairs here. And the popularity of both her and Trump is below 50%. This is the lowest in the gutter popularity of any two candidates in history. And Hillary would be the worst in history were it not for Trump. So that's the way it looks like here. And nothing's going to change. No matter who gets in there, who wins this thing. I'm presuming Hillary right now. I'm actually hoping I'm wrong. I'd rather see an anti-statist in there. Trump has severe problems, but Hillary has worse problems. She's likely to get us into a war with Russia. So these imbalances are picking up. The voters, people are angry in China, they're angry in the UK, they're angry in Germany, they're angry in Spain, they're angry in Italy, they're angry in France, and they're angry in the United States. So all of this stuff that the Fed, the central banks have done has increased wealth inequality, and people are fed up. They don't know who to blame. They're angry. You can see it in how they're voting. They just don't know who they should be angry at, and they ought to be angry at the central banks.
Well, also, too, I think the immigration from Africa, Syria to Europe, this is just a symptom of what's going to happen to the world when we have too many people in too few places that can support them.
Absolutely, Jim. Absolutely.
So this is a symptom of our future, is people, when they say economic migration, well, what's the difference between trying to eat because you're poor and trying not to die because there's shells falling. It's hard to draw that line sometimes.
It is, and sadly, that's exactly where we are. And meanwhile, the Fed is trying to, central banks in general, are trying to inflate our way out of this mess, and debt keeps growing, and GDP is not going up with it. It's taking more and more and more debt to get a smaller and smaller and smaller rise out of GDP. That's the sad state of affairs. That's going to continue no matter who wins this election, Jim.
And it seems if you do find a way to increase your income, the government finds just another way to tax the hell out of it. And like in Canada, so this carbon tax, plus it's going to be harder to get a home mortgage.
Exactly, Jim. Hey, with that, I got to go, and it's a pleasure talking with you, and I'll catch you again in a week or two.
And good luck to your Cubs.
Thanks.
My guest has been Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on MishTalk.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Questions can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.